Everyone. Welcome to the HKU program deep dive. This is Ying from the admissions office of the University of Hong Kong, and I'll be the moderator for today. So the HKU program deep dive is a series of 3 interactive dialogues with faculty members and current students. And the goal of the session is to give student information about opportunities and what students can expect from the education at HKU. So our first session today will feature HKU Business School and how it prepares students for their career. We are fortunate to have Mr. Jeroen van den Berg, the Assistant Director of the HKU Asia Case Research Center and a lecturer at the HKU Business School, as well as Gavin Key, a third-year Korean student majoring in International Business and Global Management, IBGM, at HKU. And they would share with us some insight into what studying at the business school looks like. So throughout the session, you're welcome to type in your questions through the chat. If you would like to actually speak, you can also prepare questions. And at the end of the session, we'll have ample time for you to ask questions. Before we go into the Q&A towards the very end, I'll also be giving you some information on admissions. So hopefully that would also take care of some that related questions. But if you have questions related to experiences that you want to ask a student or professor, then you're welcome to save that for the end until the end of the session to ask. So let's begin with some introduction, and perhaps we'll start with Gavin. So Gavin, can you please introduce yourself to us?
All right. Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you. My name is Gavin Key. I'm a Korean. I'm currently majoring in IBGM and second majoring in economics at HKU. And though I'm Korean, I spent my high school in an international school in Beijing called Western Academy of Beijing. And I'm returning to school after a consulting internship in Korea. And I'm expected to take part in the Global Business Case competition in upcoming April.
Thank you, Gavin. So how about Mr. Jeroen?
Yes, hi all. Welcome. Welcome to the chat room. I'm Jeroen. I've been with Hong Kong U Business School now for, I think, 11 years. In between, I came to Hong Kong U Business School. Then I was at Hong Kong UST, another university in Hong Kong, for 6 years. And then I came back to Hong Kong U Business School. So in total, I've been in Hong Kong since 2002. I first actually came to Hong Kong in the late 90s as an exchange student. And I liked it so much, I came back to spend the rest of my life here, or at least until my retirement. I got my first degree at the University of Amsterdam. That's where I'm originally from, in what they call business economics, which is basically a mix between finance and economics. And then when I came to Hong Kong, I also did a second degree here in corporate and financial law here at the Hong Kong U Law School. At Hong Kong U, I have 2 responsibilities. One is, I do some of the teaching. I teach a course called Strategic Management. That's a year 4 strategy course. And I teach an elective called Business Case Analysis and Presentation. And that's where I met Gavin. Yeah, that's, I think, everything about me. Let me just add one point I forgot. So my other responsibility is I actually do the day-to-day management of what we call the Asia Case Research Center. We develop teaching materials for use in the classroom, not only here at Hong Kong U, but at hundreds of business schools around the world. So I will talk a little bit more about that later too.
Thank you, Mr. Jeroen, for a very comprehensive introduction of what you do. We will definitely get to know him better by the end of the session. So let's start with Gavin. So as you're a Korean student, you study in mainland China in an international school in Beijing. You graduated 2 or 3 years ago now. Because you have been with us for more than 2 years. And can we go back, when you were a student? Why did you choose Hong Kong? Why did you choose to come to Hong Kong U? And obviously you were doing IBGM. Why IBGM? And actually the thought process behind that.
So as I was studying in an international school, I wanted to still continue my experience abroad because I thought it would be more suitable and meaningful for me to work abroad than Korea. So I wanted to find a school located in an international city, but still Asian, because I thought the Asian environment was more suitable to me. And then, so I narrowed it down to some international cities like Hong Kong or Singapore. And then I was thinking of business as my major because of its practicality, and then heard HKU has good business school. And then, so I looked at the curriculum with an HKU, and to me, IBGM seemed very interesting because first of all, it seems like if I join it, I would have very good experiences in learning the international business landscape. And also because of the limited size, it will be very easy to connect with other peers and also other cohorts within HKU IBGM. So that's how I came to choose IBGM at HKU.
Hopefully you had a good experience so far, and that's why you have agreed to help us with the session. So thank you very much. Actually, Mr. Jeroen already mentioned that you guys met in one of the classes. So he's actually your lecturer in one of the classes that you have taken. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Okay, so last year, I chose to take a business cracking course, which is called MGMT 2787, because I was pretty interested in consulting. So I wanted to learn the fundamentals of how to crack a case. And so I applied to this class and came to participate it. And that's how I met Professor Jeroen. And I was fortunate enough to also take part in the upcoming business competition with him.
Okay, I guess we will get to the competition bit in just a little bit. Mr. Jeroen, you have anything you want to add? What you think about Gavin, her?
Oh no, Gavin is an excellent student. I mean, this is a bit of a special course at the business school. I mean, it's an elective, which is always a bit different from the core courses and my capstone course, which I teach. Electives typically have a smaller numbers of students. And this particular course really tries to train students' soft skills and their problem solving skills. So, as opposed to an accounting course or a finance course where you typically train your hard skills, this course really tries to train students' problem solving skills, their ability to identify problems and come up with comprehensive solutions to actual business problems. For the course, every week students have to do presentations at different groups of students, so you don't have to do a presentation every week, but you have to do a lot of presentations. And every week then we have senior executives coming into the classroom, basically listening to your presentations, asking you questions, giving you feedback, and also giving an opportunity to the students actually to interact with senior executives and get their view on, what is relevant, what is important, how to do your PowerPoints, but most importantly, how to identify and how to solve actual real business problems using the concepts and theories we teach in the business school.
Mr. Jeroen, I believe that not every student is extremely familiar with the idea of case cracking, case study, and obviously we're getting case competition later. Can you actually do a quick, maybe 1 or 2 minute crash course? I mean, not a course, but
a course, a quick introduction of a business case study. Okay, so within a business school, you learn a lot of concepts, you learn frameworks, you learn theory, you learn statistics, you learn formulas, how to calculate particular financial ratios. But a business case is a tool, a teaching tool, which asks students to step into the shoes of a decision maker. You're the CEO, you're the manager. You have to identify a problem that particular company faces or an opportunity, right? And then come up with solutions using those frameworks and concepts we teach you. So you see how what we teach you in the classroom can actually be applied to the real world. To develop these cases, we actually work very closely with, senior executives throughout the region, whom we interview, whose issues, challenges we write up and then present in the form of a business case. So that is, in short, what the business case study is.
In the class, most students, as you mentioned, do project-based. They will be presented with a real case, and they do study, they apply models, apply different method. to crack a case and also, to present to everyone. Essentially, that's what students in the class do, right?
Yeah, so there's different ways. Okay, let me give you an example. We're working on a marketing case currently, for which we recently interviewed a company, an advertising agency. And this was an advertising agency that was working for one of the big sportswear brands. And this sportswear brand needed to promote its product across the Southeast Asian region. Now, the difficulty of promoting a product across Southeast Asia, especially when you use KOLs, which what the company was wanting to do, is that KOLs typically are very limited to a particular part of Southeast Asia. If you take an Indonesian KOL, that Indonesian does not appeal to the Filipino market. If you take a Filipino KOL, that Filipino won't appeal to the Malaysian market. So they had to find a solution for that. Now, naturally, they can get a K-pop star, but those charge at least 1 million US dollars. So that was, even though the budget was significant, there was not enough budget to get, a famous K-pop star. So they had to come up with a solution. And what they did was they came up with a virtual influencer, which is basically an influencer, a fake influencer using computer and virtual and all kinds of technology, right? So the case kind of delves into that and then asks students, okay, what are the pros and cons of having virtual influencers versus real influencers? How do you build the critical mass of followers for a virtual influencer to actually make a campaign like that successful? What key performance indicators, so what metrics do you use to identify the success of an influencer? And are those metrics different for virtual influencers when compared to, the traditional Instagram influencer? So we wrote a case on that, and the student is stepping into the shoes of one of these advertising executives, and we're asking to solve particular challenges in this particular setting.
Great. It's really interesting to know that, students going into a class, they're learning more than just theories. They are actually being trained or gaining exposure to what they would actually be doing by the time they graduate. And that's great news for our students. Perhaps let's talk a little bit about student life outside of classroom for now. We know that obviously university life is much more than just attending lectures, going to tutorials, and HKU students are very active in extracurriculars. And I think particularly for the business students that are involved in a lot of clubs, perhaps also in competitions. So Gavin, I know you mentioned that you are being selected to join one of the global business case competition in the next semester, actually this semester, and Mr. Jeroen will be your mentor for team. So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so just to briefly explain the case competition, it's a competition held by the University of Washington, and with a student representative different universities across the world. And the participants are expected to tackle different cases within time limit and present to the judges. So after the case cracking course I just mentioned, the professor reached out to me to offer this opportunity to actually represent HKU in one of the competitions. And then I decided to join it with my other friend who also took the class with me, because I thought it would be a great opportunity to actually apply what I learned in the class. And I have participated in different case competitions before, but I never participated in such a huge scale one. So I wanted to have a good experience. I think you're muted.
How common is it for students to be joining these events? I mean, is there any support from the faculty? Mr. Jeroen, would you like to take that, your students?
Oh, no, sure. So there's two types of case competitions, and case competitions basically are typically sponsored by, business organizations that would like to help to train the next generation of business leaders, which what our students are, right? So businesses work together with universities or student societies to organize business case competitions. And then there's two types of competitions. One is organized by the societies and by companies directly, and students can apply to those competitions. And 2 is organized by universities and sponsored by businesses. And those are typically the more prestigious case competitions. And our university then sends students to those case competitions. So we actually pay for the airfare, the hotels now, unfortunately now things are virtual. So, but in normal situation, we would pay for them to fly over, be there together with teams from other universities across the world and present cases in front of an audience and actually, hopefully, win the championship. As part of my role in actually the case center, I also organize what we call as the HSBC Hong Kong U Business Case Competition, which is actually the world's largest competition for undergraduate students because we have local competitions in 13 different countries. Every year we have over 10,000 students participating in this across countries around the world and hundreds of senior executives.
Okay, so Gabin, would you mind telling us a bit more about your experiences, opportunities, things that HKU and IBGM has offered you in terms of, how that helped your career planning?
So talking about HKU, I think it's very helpful in providing different career-related workshops and also other sharing sessions with different guest speakers such as entrepreneurs or very famous professors, where you can explore your interest in different fields like business, economics, finance, and marketing, and so on. And talking about IBGM specific programs, I think it allows you to experience not only Hong Kong, but also other countries' business environments and also meet professionals in those fields face to face. And because of the small scale of this curriculum and stuff, it's usually very interactive. And also it's easier to bond with these people because of the interactiveness. And I think I haven't been enjoying all the experiences. And if you look at this picture, it's the photo from my field trip to Singapore in year 1. And during the trip, we were allowed to visit different countries, different corporates and startups within Singapore and understand the different industries and explore different company scenes. And we also had the chance to compare Hong Kong and Singapore. And it's one of the most memorable and also valuable experience in my life, I would say.
That's really good to hear. Mr. Jeroen, how about from the faculty's perspective, from a business school point of view, how do you think the business school actually prepares students for going into corporate or whatever they're going to be doing with the degree?
So, like Gavin says, we have a certain number of very famous professors who are excellent researchers, world famous, who you can take courses from. I don't count myself amongst them, no, but my colleagues, some of them are truly brilliant minds. And they will teach you a lot of relevant academic thinking skills. And at the same time, we also try to train students soft skills by courses such as mine, which really allow you to train your, problem solving, also your communication skills, your ability to work in a team, all kinds of skills that nowadays are more and more important if you want to be successful after university. Then I think also what helps and why I personally also like Hong Kong U a lot is because it's a comprehensive university. That means that you can take electives outside of the business school, meaning, you can take an elective on gender studies, or you can take an elective, in the language school, or you can take an elective on archaeology, or you can really broaden, I think, your knowledge base, which I think is very valuable, especially to students. I think that is the perfect time in your life to, look beyond just business school and obtain knowledge on a wider range of topics. So I think that is something that I personally like a lot about Hong Kong U Business School. And yeah. I think our students are very international, which again, I think is great.
We know, we are already talking about success, success going into whatever you will be doing, your career, going to businesses, going into corporate. There's no doubt that university really plays an important role for career exploration and also preparation as well. And to a HKU student, I think especially for a business school student, one really important aspect of university is really a time for them to fill their CV with experiences, with internships and things that they can impress the employers. So I know, Gavin, you're just starting your third year, but you have already done 2 internships, as you mentioned, in the last 2 summers. So can you tell us a little bit more about those internships and how you actually managed to find them? Because I know you have actually some pretty good ones.
Okay. So as he just mentioned, I have done 2 internships. The first one at SK Telecom in South Korea, which is the leading company in not only telecom, but also ICT. And the other at the Boston Consulting Group, also in Korea. And I actually got a lot of help from, I would say, my seniors when I was getting those internships. First one, I actually got it completely on my own. I searched for the internship recruitment post and then I applied. But then during the process, I got the recommendation letter from one of my mentor professor. And the second one, I got, as you know, that I was interested in consulting, so I wanted to explore more. And then I got some help from my seniors when applying, because I was part of different societies. And within the Korean community at HKU, there exists different societies, student societies. And then I was part of a society called Korean Management Consulting Group, which focuses on consulting. And then I was able to meet seniors who have done internships in consulting already or have strong interest in consulting just like me. So I got the help on how, for example, how to better manage my CV, and also what are some tips during interview. And I think it was a great opportunity because I could connect to people with similar interests and learn better from them. And I think this is also common for my friends from other countries, because I know each country has some strong bonding. And I'm not saying that nationality is the big factor in getting an internship, but I will say that one good thing about studying at a diverse environment is that there exist so many factors to bond with others, and nationality is just one of them. And I also use LinkedIn to network with people. Although this is not directly related to my internship, but I sometimes have some companies or industry that I found interest in. And then I try to search through LinkedIn to see what other people are actually within that field already. And then I found many commonalities, such as same school, faculty, or same society, or even nationality. And these made it much easier to start the conversation. And it really helped me a lot in knowing different options within my career path.
Mr. Jeroen, how does it look like from you as a lecturer, as someone who teaches? How does it look like? Can you tell us some story about your students? Internship they find,
No, I
mentors.
I think the students at Hong Kong U are very competitive, and very. They're all trying to get internships. I would say the vast majority of my students, from what I know, right, do have internships every summer, and even throughout the term. A lot of students also take like a gap semester to take, an internship for a full semester, purely because of CV building. And I think that's also what stimulates a lot of people to choose Hong Kong, as a location for their studies, because Hong Kong, as the financial heart of Asia, is a really good place to get internships, right? All the local companies, all the international companies, all the mainland companies, everyone is here in Hong Kong. And these companies do have a long experience in offering internships to students. So yeah, I know our students are very active in finding internships all throughout the region, but also in Hong Kong.
Do you have any examples to give?
They work at everything. Really anything from, NGOs, charities, to companies like BCG and Goldman Sachs, and anything in between, right? There in Hong Kong, I think, naturally, there's a lot of finance-related internships in Hong Kong, which for business school students is always attractive because a lot of them study finance-related subjects, right? So a lot of them want to do finance internships, but there's also consulting, but there's also, a lot of training companies, a lot of companies that have manufacturing operations in the mainland, but who are based in Hong Kong. Think about the world's largest jewelry company, Chow Tai Fook. A big real estate companies such as New World Development, of Song Kei Properties. I mean, all major companies, and I think. There's a lot of opportunities to get internships, and it also depends on what you're interested. But I think also internships are a way to see what you would like to do after you graduate. So you do a finance internship, you do a consulting internship, you do an internship in a traditional company like a telecoms company, or some other fast-moving consumer goods company, and then see what you like to do and what you like to focus on after you graduate.
I see. Thank you very much. So, Gavin, let's go back to you. You are halfway through your university. Now, with your background experience, you probably already have a career plan in mind. You did mention that you want to go into business consulting, probably. Are you planning to go back to Korea? Are you planning to stay in Hong Kong? Are you going to look anywhere else?
I actually plan to stay in Hong Kong after graduation. And even if I go back to Korea, it will be after I build some career experience in Hong Kong first.
Is there a particular reason why you prefer Hong Kong over, say mainland China where you did your high school in, or obviously South Korea?
One big reason is that my Chinese isn't very good enough for me to allow my work in China. And also, Hong Kong is an international city with so many global companies. So it just allows so many opportunities in both the global and also the local companies. And I think the experiences are better for you to shift to other countries later. So maybe I mentioned, but I want to work in different countries later in my career. So like not only one country, but I want to build some diverse experience in diverse environments. And then Hong Kong compared to China or Korea, I think is more recognized globally. So if you work in those companies in Hong Kong, I think it will set you a better stepping stone, I would say, in your career.
And Mr. Jeroen, I know that graduates from business school has a really excellent employment record. In the past, I believe virtually 100%, or at least 99% of students graduated with a job or with multiple job offers, in fact. And I have actually also looked at the statistics. I think the mean salary for IBGM students was something like 38,000 Hong Kong dollars per month. That's what, 4,000 US dollars a month. That's really impressive, I would say. So from your experience, you've been teaching in HKU for a while now. You have come into contact with lots of students. Can you tell us kind of what kind of placement that actually students get into after they graduate? I know you mentioned about nonprofit internships, going into big banks and big investment banks. Any kind of industry, especially I think be it local students or international students, like what kind of, you have some examples for us? Something.
Okay, so, maybe Gavin can add to it, so you can add to it. So I can also only talk about what my students find interesting and actually what they tell me, right? And what they ask me to write recommendation letters for beyond, postgraduate studies. And I think, from my perspective, what a lot of our students are aiming for is traineeships. And a lot of companies in Hong Kong actually have very good traineeship programs. And a traineeship program basically allows you to enter a company, and get trained for a management position. You're kind of moved around the company. You start in one division, you move to another division, you move to a different role. You kind of test different things in order to build you as a future person, future management or future executive of the business. And there's a lot of those opportunities in Hong Kong, and typically that is what our students are aiming for when they're looking for jobs, in my experience. But maybe Gavin can, shed some light on this from the student perspective, because
I think what you said is right. I think many seniors also talked about that, like that there's more opportunities in Hong Kong, even including the training programs. And yeah, and I think just talking about the industry, a lot of seniors want to go into finance, but then for now, Hong Kong is still the main headquarters in Asia. So it has the most opportunities for finance, I would say. So a lot of my seniors who want to pursue their career in finance choose to stay in Hong Kong and explore more opportunities.
Mrs. Jeroen, this question is for you. So what's your view on kind of the current job situation, job prospect, in Asia, right now with COVID kind of slowing down the global economy, and how, in light of that, like, what's your view on jobs?
So naturally, I think it's a difficult time. And everyone understands it's a different time. I mean, we're meeting now online. Everyone is taking classes online. Actually, there's a lot of restrictions when it comes to COVID. And because of the risks, a lot of companies have, stopped or frozen their hiring, or they're recruiting less people. So what I do see is that students are now trying to postpone their graduation by doing graduate degrees. So there's significant increase in applications for postgraduate programs. On the other hand, I think I'm always a glass is half full kind of a guy, right? I always try to look at the positive side of things. And I do think that, COVID is really will force lasting change on, how businesses operate, and not only now, but even after COVID is gone. Supply chains are changing, the way people work are changing. Certain companies, if you've been following the stock market, certain companies have shut up, while others, stocks have dropped. And at those times of change, there is also a lot of opportunities. Right, there's new opportunities for our graduates. There's things that no one really knows how to do, and you can be the first to do them, to move into that space. It's not like you're entering a market where all the roles are already taken, where everyone has all the experience and you don't. I think this is also a time of opportunity. So it's up to our students to, try to grab that opportunity in these difficult times for everyone.
I think what we do get, if anything, from the presentation is that there are ample opportunities if students are willing to fight for those, students are willing to go for those, and the opportunities are there for students to grasp. So some maybe last questions for the two of you. Gavin, do you have any advice to high school students who want to study IBGM or just business in general at HKU?
I think it's better if you can first think of what career and life you want after you graduate, and spend enough time to consider it, as there exists so many paths within even business and also many second majors. I am not saying that you should decide it now, but I want you to consider all different possibilities so that you can explore them better when you actually come to HKU.
Thank you. Mr. Jeroen, what do you think some qualities that would help students succeed? Because obviously we have actually a number of students already asking about admissions related questions. So what qualities do you think would help them to succeed?
I think on average, I'm very impressed, and a lot of people, executives that come into my classroom, a lot of people are really impressed by the quality of students at Hong Kong U. And because the quality of students at Hong Kong U is very good, to be successful at Hong Kong U amongst all these other smart students, right? Once you're admitted is, one, you have to work hard and be responsible, right? I mean, that is logical. But at the same time, you have to stay curious. stay curious and try to continue your learning, connect with others, join clubs, take electives, right? Broaden your knowledge base. One student once told me, I had a few goals when I entered the university. Um, Live in the hall, date, uh, do an internship, go on exchange, and her fifth goal after taking the course was participate in a case competition. So achieve those goals, and at the same time learn as much as you can while you're at university, network with your fellow students, and have a great time. I think that is what you want to do.
Okay, thank you both very much for your insight and your input on what it looks like for business students studying at the HKU Business School and the career prospect that they would have. Now, I know there are questions coming in already. Please feel free to continue to ask. You're welcome to type those in the chat, and we would go over those questions later on. But before that, I would like to give some information on admissions, because obviously a lot of students are already quite interested in how to get into business school and get into a particular business school programs. So for those who are not aware, actually the HKU Business School offers seven different courses, or you can look at it as 9, depending on how you look at them, because there are programs that you have a branching options. So those 9 undergraduate programs actually would range from a very quantitative approach to business, for example, quantitative finance, for example, in business administration information system, to a less quantitative area where, for example, we are talking about business administration. For example, we're talking about private banking, asset management. So there is actually the study of business is more than just one single area, as kind of what Mr. Jeroen and Gavin have mentioned. It covers a lot of things in between. You have to use all the tools that you have in order to succeed, regardless of which program you get yourself into. But within business, there are actually a lot of options for students. And these programs are open to all local and international students to apply to. So if you're a final year student, or if you're still thinking about university, you're in final, you're going into final year next year, you're welcome to consider those information. And other than our single degree programs, I also want to talk about our dual degree arrangement, which actually these are information, these are courses that students in their Gavin, when she was in high school student, was not available to her actually. So I want to make sure that you guys are aware of this opportunity. So we have an HKU University of British Columbia dual degree, which is brand new. So we're taking in the first intake this year in September. The application has to UBC actually has closed for this intake. But if you want to look into this program, essentially you are getting 2 degrees in 4 years time. You spend the first year and the 4th year at HKU and spend the middle 2 years in UBC. Obviously you pay less because HKU tuition fee is in fact cheaper than UBC unless you're a Canadian citizen. And you get out with 2 degrees and the opportunities from both of the universities. So if you have questions, you want to look into more, I'm happy to take that. HKU Peking University Future Leaders Dual Degree. This is a program where students spend 2 years at HKU and 2 years at Peking U, one of the most prestigious university in mainland China. They would gain a Bachelor of Economics and Finance from HKU and a Bachelor of Management from Peking University. So this is open. The application will be through either HKU or Peking U, depending on your nationality. So if you're interested, this is again something that will really give you a boost and really give you a start in building your human resources, building your connection and network in 2 different places, strategic locations. Here, in terms of the admissions, we accept students based on international qualifications. If you are a student studying one of these qualifications, obviously not limited to any of these qualifications, you will be considered to be applying through the international or the non-JUPAS pathway. So the application can be completed online. There is an application form you can fill out online where you will indicate, the academic qualification. For example, in Gavin's case, you did IB. So obviously, if you're an IB student, you'll be applying through this as well. We are currently accepting application all the way till August 2021. We know this year is a challenging year, and a lot of students are probably going to wait to see when the vaccine will come, when to see the travel ban will be lifted, to really make a serious consideration about overseas university option. And as a result, HKU is also accepting application all the way till August 2021, subject to program availability for the intake of 2021 September. The admissions will be conducted on a rolling basis, which means that it would be number one, subject to program availability, also subject to the faculty's evaluation schedule. So if you are keen to apply, right now it's definitely not too late for you to do so. You can apply with your final result, you can apply with your predicted results, all that will be possible. You may be given an offer, either conditional offer, firm offer, before you enroll before September. Here, a lot of other students also asked about the admissions requirements, about the kind of number of subjects you need, the score you will need. In fact, because the HKU Business School and also HKU in general has, depending on the program, we also have different expected lower boundary score. This is a score that we expect, you would have to meet in order to be able to be somewhat competitive. So you do want to definitely check our website, hku.hk/international. And we have a full list of that available on our website as well. And in terms of the program you apply to, if you're interested in business, a lot of the business programs actually place emphasis on students' English and math capabilities. So for example, if you're an IB student, they will be looking at your math and English score. If you're A-level students, obviously they would also be looking at your math results. And the TOEFL and IELTS will be preferred because the medium of instruction at HKU is in English. So make sure you also check that information on our website. And the language requirements. So English requirements, such as mentioned, the medium instructions, English, and a second language, anything other than English. It could be Mandarin, it could be Korean, it could be Hindi, it could be any language other than English to meet the second language requirements. So that's a really quick summary on admissions. I know there are more questions in the chat. So I think I will take this time actually to look through the questions. Again, you're welcome to continue to type out questions. I know there are some questions on admissions and also some questions directed to Gavin, actually, I've seen. So perhaps let's start with an easier one. How important is Chinese or Cantonese really? Do you actually need it to actually work in Hong Kong, to actually get something decent in Hong Kong? Perhaps some people are concerned that they don't speak any Chinese. Would it pose a significant barrier for them to actually find an internship or a job?
I would say they are not mandatory. Like even if you're not able to speak them, it's totally fine. But if you can speak Mandarin, there's way more opportunities. For example, in internships and careers, I personally speak not very good Mandarin, so I would say I wasn't able to apply to those positions that require Chinese skills. But if you can speak, it's definitely a big advantage. And also Cantonese, I think it's not very helpful. It's helpful in your daily lives, but not in career, I would say.
I think actually also one point is that, students, if you would like to learn Chinese, you will be exposed to the environment for you to do so. Although in classes, everything is taught in English, there are Chinese classes that all the international students have to take. Most students would probably only do one because they're not trying to master the language, but the resources is there for students if they want to do that. I mean, as Gavin said, once you want to go back to Korea, sometimes, having the Chinese would help. But again, I have also personally seen students who don't speak much Chinese, if any, to be able to secure some pretty good actually internship or even job positions at investment banks, at big companies where Chinese is not really a requirement. So that's that. Can you tell us what the average class size look like? Gavin, do you have, can you tell us a little bit more? That's probably also something the students are interested to know.
Okay. So was it about IBGM particularly or just any?
Just in general, yeah.
Okay.
You can tell us different types. Different types, perhaps.
It really depends on which course you take. So if it's, let's say, a mandatory course like economics, then it's really huge, like there's 200 students. But then if it's a small size specific to your program, it's usually within 40 students. And I think business classes tend to be small size because it needs some interactions within class.
How about your class, Mr. Jeroen? How big is your class?
Okay, so I have two classes, right? One is the capstone, which is a compulsory course. Most of the students have to take within the school. We have capped the number of students in that class at 65. So since it's a compulsory class, that class is always full. 65 is really the kind of the maximum number of students you can have in class if you still want to have a class discussion and student participation in a classroom. And then my elective is actually very small. Last year it was very small because, the thing moving online, coronavirus, students dropping out. I also think this year, because of coronavirus, it will be a bit harder to attract students to a course that is focused on presentations. So that typically is around, 25 students. Which is a nice number for a very intensive course where you have to do a lot of presentations. But yeah, like Gavin said, some of the accounting, some of the economics classes can be very large. Yes, and you have tutorials and.
So mostly a lot of classes made up with lectures. Usually it would be big because all the students would have to go through it, and then small size tutorials, which can go from 10, 15, 20 students in a tutorial setting. And you will be working quite closely with the people, same group of students in the tutorial as well. Gavin, can you tell us, you have a second major, right? So some students want to know about major, minor options, kind of things that you can do with your degree at HKU. Can you tell us a little bit more?
So IBGM requires you to have a second major, but it doesn't mean that every course requires you to. There's some, I think it's just for IBGM. And but a lot of my friends from other programs, they also choose to do a second major, but there's some restraints on what you can choose. For example, you cannot take a major in accounting. And so it really depends on what you choose as your first major. And it's also common to second major in something cross faculties. Like my friend major in IBGM and computer science. But I think depends on what the course is. There may be some requirements when you apply for it as a second major.
Yeah, probably there will be some prereq courses that you will have to take. But I think as what Gavin said, I think Gavin, you're doing economics as a second major, is that right?
Yes.
There is actually a range of different things that you can do. I know there are students who do psychology, and then with their business degree in psychology, then they can do something like, like behavioral, like they do some research on like customer behavior and things like that. That's quite interesting. I mean, you mentioned about computer science again. That's great for students who want to go into more technical aspect. They actually want to have some programming related knowledge that go with their business degree. That's, again, obviously quite common. There's students who do, I think, journalism. Students can do business reporting, for example, with that. And then there's students who do a major in a second language. It could be French, Spanish, any language. Then perhaps they will also want to use that to be working in that kind of either that country or in, for example, a foreign corporation. So I've seen actually a lot of combination, a lot of things that students can do, and thanks to really the comprehensive education system that is available to students at HKU. So we have some questions on actually part-time jobs and internship. So maybe I'll take that. So essentially students, because as you can see, Gavin has done 2 internships, although they're in Korea, if she wanted to actually work in Hong Kong, it would be completely possible for her to do so. So all international students will be able to do internships during their summers. If you can get your faculty to support you, then you can, in some cases, can also work throughout the year. As long as you have the approval from the faculty to do so, then you can also intern throughout the year, or actually becoming more and more common. Students can gap semester or gap year to do a job either in Hong Kong or elsewhere. That's also quite common. In terms of part-time job, however, there is a limit, again, as I mentioned earlier, unless it is something that's backed by the faculty. The part-time job is restricted for international students, international full-time students. They can only work up to 20 hours a week on campus. So that's the limit based on their visa status. But I think what I want to make sure you're aware is that tons of international students were able to find internships, be it in Hong Kong, be it in other places. And that's honestly is not a rare occasion where students will take up more than one internship. It's actually quite common for students to do just that, as long as you do put in the effort to do so. So let's see what the kind of scrolling through the questions again. There are students who want to prepare for going into business already. I think there are some young students, in fact, who want to prepare for business, and they wanted to know if is there any courses, any perhaps books, perhaps anything that they can do to gain a head start? Is there anything like that from your perspective?
So before coming to HKU, right?
Yeah.
I would say if there's business or economics courses provided in your school, I highly recommend taking them, because they can be your fundamentals when you actually enter and take your courses. And I would say it doesn't have to be books, but then on YouTube, there's a lot of videos that explore different industries and companies and their issues. And I find those videos very helpful and interesting in better understanding business. So I also recommend those as well.
Yeah. Maybe I can add something here. I mean, it's based on experience a long time ago, because I used to be a student too, right? And I think the courses that helped me most when I entered university, mostly when I studied finance and econ, right, was mathematics on one hand, and English on the other hand, me being not an English native speaker. Because a lot of the communication within the university is in English, a lot of report writing is in English. Good English skills are very helpful, as well as quantitative skills, mathematics skills. I think another thing you can do, YouTube videos didn't really exist when I was growing up. I know you have them now, but read the newspaper, stay informed of what was happening in the world, read the economic and finance section of a newspaper. Maybe if your parents have the Financial Times or the Economist or the Wall Street Journal, take a look at those. There's also things like McKinsey has an app which actually provides a lot of articles, interviews with business executives, CEOs, I think that is also very useful. Try to give it a read and see if you can understand and learn from that. Yes.
All right. Thank you. I think we are coming towards the end. I do want to address a question. Some students are asking for tuition fee, asking for scholarships. All the applicants to the University of Hong Kong will be considered automatically for the HKU entrance scholarships. It's the merit-based scholarship, so it's based on your merit. And you don't have to submit a separate application for that. If you're interested in other scholarships, there's also a full list available on our website, so you can see which one you actually are eligible for, because some of them actually will be offered by donors or separate, offered by the government, offered by different organizations. So make sure you do take a look. And as a final comment, we will be hosting a scholarship info session from 4 to 5 p.m. next Wednesday on the 27th. So if you are interested to find out more about scholarships, because we won't be going into too much detail here, do make sure you join the session 4 to 5 p.m. The registration is on our website. And in fact, I think I will ask my colleague to also share the link in the chat box as well. So make sure you do register and find out more about scholarship opportunities at HKU. So again, I think we have come to a close. It's 5 p.m. So thank you very much for joining. Thank you everyone for being a part of this dialogue. If you're interested in other programs, make sure to tune in tomorrow and also the day after, where we will have students from the Faculty of Science as well as students from Faculty of Engineering to be sharing with us. So again, thank you very much and hope to see you soon.